My name is Lynn Leinwohl, and I'm an artist. I've been living up here in Lewisboro for about a year and a half, and I moved here from Mount Kisco about a year and a half ago. The reason I came up here was because it's quiet here and beautiful. And as an artist, I need nature, because I can't remember who said it. I think it was Zola. He said art is nature seen through a temperament. That's what he said. And I have a temperament that adores nature. So I've been living here for about a year and a half. I live quietly. This is my studio where we are now. It used to be a living room, and now it's a real living room because I really live in it. I love Lewisboro. It's beautiful up here, peaceful. It's nice to have some property. I feed birds. I love the birds. Yesterday, an animal came to visit me while I was sitting outside. Gorgeous little thing with very big eyes, not sure what it was, but it's inspirational to be here for me. What motivated me to get into art, I suppose, was my mother. She was a painter, and so I started painting when I was 6. We had a garden, and I started painting roses in the garden, and I loved it. I loved the whole color aspect of it, and I guess I didn't do oils then. Well, actually I did, because my mother was an oil painter, but then I just started drawing and crayoning, and then I got into oils when I was about 15, and that's all I've done. I just love oil paint. When it came time to go to college, my mother believed that I had a lot of talent and I should not go to art school, because if you go to art school, then they teach you what they do, and I should develop my own talent, which was good, I suppose, good advice, until as a painter, I got to a place where I needed to learn about color, because color is complex, you know, bending forms, and it's just complex. And so I ended up in, I guess, 1975, I was living in Atlanta, and I applied to go to the High Museum School in Atlanta, and I got a Ford Foundation grant, thank God, and I started to study. And that really helped, because I think as a painter, yes, you can have talent, but you also have to know what you're doing. And either you're going to study with someone who really does know what they're doing, or you're going to go to a school. And I did, and I'm very happy. And then I got a master's in fine art, because I wanted to work in the field as whatever. It's hard to make a living as a painter, so I ended up teaching art in a lot of different places. I taught at Pace University, I taught at Queens College. I also taught in Bedford-Stuyvesant in Brooklyn. I taught art there, though, more as a discipline, because that's what was needed. As an artist, you kind of look at a situation and you say, okay, I'm gonna take this ability I have and I'm going to make it fit the need of a situation. And so that's what I did there. Then that's what I did. I taught and I painted. And until now I'm retired from all of that teaching, and I paint every day, and it's great. The kind of art that I actually specialize in has to do with what I believe. I'm a Buddhist. I practice Buddhism since 1971, and a lot of that path is contemplative, and so my art has become more about still life and contemplation and relationships than anything else. I do love to do portraits, but it's really not easy to find people to sit. I just did one of a friend, it's over there, and he got very, very, wiggly after about an hour, so okay, that was done. I love portraiture, but I don't do photographic portraiture. Again, art is not about representing exactly as something is. That's what photography is for. Art is about the relationships that we create on a two-dimensional plane, and the balance and the color and the intensity and the harmony and what it is exactly coming from the heart you are communicating. So my portraits are not exactly what the person looked like, but they feel more like the person than the person might feel. Still life has always interested me. I get great joy from it. I love rabbits. I do a lot of rabbit paintings. People say, why do you do rabbit paintings? They're not real rabbits. They would probably have a harder time sitting still than a person, but it's rabbit imagery, because rabbits are about rebirth, and my life is about change, and every moment we make decisions, and that's the process of art, and that's the process of being alive, actually. Back in the day when I was in art school, there was a debate. Is painting dead? Is what everyone started to say. And I remember thinking painting can never be dead, because painting is how people who want to communicate. That's like saying music is dead, or the genre of classical music is dead. Painting for me can never be dead. It can change as it has, and it can morph and become other things. I think in the 50s we had abstract expressionism, and that was painters trying to get out of some box and do what they felt and break through something, and that was great, and it was of that time. But now I feel like I know that modern art is many things, but for me, my art, first of all, my art does not look like art, and it doesn't look like anything I've seen. And while it can be a troubling thing that I don't recognize my art when I go into a gallery and see other art, it's also, my art is honest. It's very honest. And to the degree that I have striven to become authentic and honest, it's a reflection of who I am and how I see the world. So that is my path, and that is the struggle that I have. And I guess that's why I work on a painting for a long time, because it's only me deciding when something needs to change, when a color needs to become more intense, or I'm the one that decides everything. Someone once said art is about making visual decisions. Well, making any decision is difficult, but a visual decision to me is a challenge, and that's why after all this after all this time, I'm still excited, enthralled, and happy to spend my days in the studio. I think art has become really commercialized, these days. It's funny, somebody sent me a link on my phone to an auction, an art auction, and I was looking at these pieces and they were horrible. I mean, they weren't really, they were the worst things I've ever seen, awful. And I was thinking, I'm so, okay, now I'm an older person and I work my tail off every day as a painter. I worked when I worked also. As an artist, I also worked when I was working full time. But I am so grateful that I never had to rely on selling my art to eat, because I think honesty is so important as the basis of your expression, my expression. And if I can't have dinner, because I just think it's really better not to have to rely on selling your work. I think the whole art world now is very commercial. I mean, you know, you got your dealers, you got your critics, you have this, you have that. It's very hard to maintain your soul in freedom when you have all of these pressures as a painter. We're a sensitive group anyway. So I'm grateful I don't have to sell my art. I think that's one of the reasons that it's been able to grow with me, and it has. You know, the work that I do is the work that I do, and I believe it's really pretty good stuff, and it's getting better and better, because that's the nature of growth, and that's part, again, of being alive. I think art critics are a particular kind of people, and I guess like any kind of critic, I probably would respect an art critic more if they were, in fact, artists themselves, because when I look at a piece that I'm doing, for example, or I have had people come into this studio and just like look at it and look at that and look at that. You can't be an art critic for, I don't think, well, I shouldn't say that, but I don't think most art critics know what they're talking about, because as an artist, I can't explain what I'm doing. This painting started out about a month ago. No, not a month ago, about 2 weeks ago. This is called Valentine's Day, and it was about a feeling I had, and I picked up this imagery. This is a Tiffany box, and these are strawberries. But as time goes on, it changes, and it becomes, what are these lines for? What do they mean? They mean something. A critic is never going to know, because I don't even know. As I construct a piece, my imagery, it kind of works off the other images. A piece has to flow internally. It has to relate internally. And it has to start with a seed of something, and that's what motivates me to push it forward. I guess it's like birthing. I mean, how do you criticize a baby? No, that's not a good analogy, but it all comes out, and I don't know where it comes from. I'm a vehicle for whatever's going on. Initially, the idea is mine, the paint is mine, the clean turpentine is mine. But beyond that, there's something else coming from somewhere else. And I personally do not know how a critic taps into that when I, as the artist, can't. I've had a couple of shows since I moved up here. I had a few shows in Mount Kisco also. I'm part of the Mount Kisco Artist Alliance, and now I'm here, And I've had a couple of shows, I think at the Anna True Gallery. And it's a great place. It's like a farm. It's Anna True Farm. And I also had 2 shows at the Katona Library. One show I had 2 rooms filled, and the other show was kind of a favor because they were doing an art walk and the person that was supposed to hang a show didn't, and so I hung another show. It's always interesting to me to get feedback from people when they're looking at my work. The feedback is usually delightful. I love the colors, beautiful, joyful, which is, of course, what I love to hear. And sometimes I would like to hear more, like, you know, where it touches you and does it speak to you. But people, again, we're not a communicative society. You know, people will just jot down wonderful or exciting on a paper. But I actually, my art is interactive. I want to communicate something. And I also want the viewer to get something. And what I have learned, even myself looking at my own pieces, is you travel through a painting. This one is not near done, but you travel through with light, you travel through with line, you travel through with color. You must be able to travel through. And that excursion is something that the viewer has to be willing to involve him or herself in. Art is not something, oh, pretty. It's something where you're a willing participant. And so I don't know if you need training to enjoy art. I don't think you do. I think everyone's pretty attuned to color and movement and line. I think we all have that. But I think time, an investment in time when you're in a gallery is very important. If you just walk in and you walk through and you go, wow, nice show, you haven't seen the show. You've just gone to a gallery. And now I'm finding out it's very fashionable to go to galleries and openings and drink wine and everything. But, and it's also, when you go to a gallery, you kind of have a responsibility to be a part of the pieces that are being offered. Art is personal. It's very personal. When I go to the Met, I run to see my favorite Cézanne, which is his little apples. He never finished them, and my favorite Bonnards. And oftentimes I'll be with people and they just don't get it. And so they're over there looking at something else, something with more finish, that's more academic, and that's what they're loving. And you have to respect, I have to respect as a painter, as an artist, that everyone will not like my work. Breaks my heart, but I have to respect that because there's a lot of work. I'm not going to say I don't like it. I will say it doesn't capture my soul. It doesn't capture me. That's a better way of putting it. I'm not judgmental, but I am very aware of the fact that art is like, it's like everything else. You know, some people want this, some people like apples, some people like Easter eggs, you know, it's like, yeah. So there you go. Some of my favorite painters are, let me see, I went to Italy a couple of times, and Raphael, of course, who doesn't love Raphael? Michelangelo, of course, you know. I like the great artists because I see their facility, I see their use, I love the great artists. Who, again, who doesn't? The more modern ones are would be, of course, Matisse. Cezanne is my all-time favorite. Bonnard. I can't look at Bonnard without smiling. He painted his wife for like 100,000 years, and she never got old. I mean, now there's power to an artist. I love Fairfield Porter. He used to have a gallery at the end of a studio, I mean, at the end of Long Island. I love his work, what he does with light, what he does with sunshine. Edward Hopper, I loved, I still love. I love any artist that works with light, color. Some of my teachers, I love their art. I worked with Harold Bruder at Queens College. Love his art. Louis Finkelstein, a great colorist. Rosemary Beck. These people, I adore their art. I mean, it was delicious to look at it. Color is not easy. It can be frightening. And when you master color, and when you can express through color, I think you're doing okay. The best advice that I would give to a person, a young person, starting out in the art field now, would be get some training. Get some training. Don't just say, oh, I'm an artist, and go off and start doing stuff. Train, take some courses, look at a lot of art. Half of my art career was copying the masters. Corot, I did 100 pictures from Corot. He's pretty good. And Raphael, I mean, the old guys knew what they were doing. Don't just go off and say, I'm an artist and I'm going to make art, because it's not going to end well. What you want to do is, it's like a piano player. You don't just start playing the piano, you learn the chords. It's important to learn those chords, the colors, the values. Value in art is very important. Light, dark, pull, push, it's all important. And don't copy. I mean, having said that you should copy, once you get into making your art, try to make your art. Stay on your own. You know, being an artist is a little bit lonely. It's you and your work. And you got to stay with that and respect it. And little voices will come in your head saying, oh, that's not good, that's not good. Shut out the voices. Stop the thoughts. Make your art. Say what you have to say with your colors and your forms. Use good paint. Bad paint is not a good idea because it doesn't make good colors. Get the best quality pigment you can get, because it can be discouraging if you're working with not good paint. So what I have to say to young artists in a nutshell is paint your pieces, make your art, and don't look out there, look in here, and do your best work. I hope you enjoyed visiting me in my studio today. It's been a pleasure sharing my work with you, and I'll be showing, I'm not sure when or where, but I will be having shows, and you are invited to come. I hope I meet you when you do come. Again, thank you for visiting.
You're watching Lewisboro Community Television, Channel 20.